Hi everyone, we will be starting the broadcast at approximately 11:30. We are finishing setting up the field now. We'll see you in a few. Let's stay in there. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this right here. Hi, everyone. All right, Lisa, it's all you. This weird little kickoff event we're doing here.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the kickoff. And welcome to our season. This seems very weird, and I really hate that I cannot see any faces at all, or hands, or anything. So thank you all for signing on, and I'm sure that there will be more because we said around 11:30. To get a little idea of what the plan is for the day. Am I not live?
No, you're live. That's the TV is muted.
Okay, sorry, we're just, please put any questions, concerns, comments in the chat box, because that's the only way we're gonna know whether or not you can really see and
Could
hear
someone
us.
do us a favor and just let us know that you can hear us? That'd be awesome.
Are we getting that?
I'll sit here. Yep, looks like we're good.
Oh, perfect. So we'll start by saying good afternoon, good morning, welcome.
I don't know where the box is too.
And do a few introductions. We can start with Greg Stevens, who just walked by us. We are doing this out of the 4-H Cornell Cooperative Extension of Saratoga County, and we thank you for giving us our space. This is Tyler Russell, coach of RoboVines Team 6955. I'm Lisa Russell, co-coach of RoboVines 6955, and also your first senior mentor for the area. On your screen right now, I believe
Yes, that is
you are
official.
seeing Tina Betts, who is our FTC partner's email. I believe she is on as well. So hi, Tina.
Yes, she is.
And there's some other emails that you guys might want to use if you need to reach out.
What is a first senior mentor, Lisa?
What?
What is a first senior mentor?
A first senior mentor is someone who likes to help you guys get stuff done and answer questions. Tina and I work really well and do a lot of stuff together, so you can reach out to either one of us with your questions and concerns. I'm sure there will be many this year as we charter uncharted territory. So please, 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 no question is too small. Don't stress. Send us emails, call us. If you go to send me an email and send Tina an email, you'll also get our other contact information. So please don't feel stressed. So to begin with, I have a small list of welcomes. The big thing for the year is that right now for Excelsior region, we are doing everything remote. We will talk tons about remote today. There is a lot of remote changes. First has really pivoted from going from the competitions that we're used to figuring out how to do things remote. So we will talk a lot about the remote features today. They're obvious. If you guys have printed out the game manual, part 1, some of it's on there. After today, game manual part 1 has some decent changes when it comes to judging, so you're going to want to at least print out or look at the updated version that will come out. Tina sent out a survey to you guys, to all of us on Thursday. A whole bunch of them have come back already and with some really great feedback. So please, if you have not filled out the surveys, or multiple people on your team can fill out surveys. Some really, really great questions, comments, and the more that we get, the more that we can try to help you guys. I mean, some of the questions are unknown. Some of the questions, how do you work with kids when you're not supposed to be more than 6 feet, you're supposed to be 6 feet away from them. We don't really work in an environment where that is super easy. So it's figuring out how to change that. And people are coming up with some really good suggestions. Share them too. Please share them, because it could be something that seems very, very simple to you guys, but we haven't thought of it. And, for whatever reason, like you have one of those aha moments, share them. It might not work for everybody, but it might work for somebody. And all you need, I think based on the surveys that have come back so far, the biggest concern is how do we possibly do this when we're a hands-on thing? So please complete your surveys, and we will share the information that comes from them, but it's definitely a help. You all also should have, if you were a team from last year or it's around, we got an email on Tuesday that our FTC season has been extended. So where Worlds used to happen in April, it is now not going to happen until into the summer next year. So our seasons themselves will not end until June 30th. That allows to see what's going to happen, basically. It allows for some of you teams who right now schools are virtual to figure it out and not be virtual anymore, or to figure out where else you can go. What's the matter?
Somebody just emailed that they don't have video.
Okay. Just making sure that you guys can still all hear me. So that's a really cool thing. Really cool. Going to change when qualifiers happen for us a little bit, and it will obviously change. Right now they're saying our Worlds will be in Detroit sometime in the beginning of August. I also was just on a call with First. They don't even know what Worlds are going to totally look like, because who knows who's coming from where. So, but that's what they're looking at, and they wanted to make sure that we had as much time with this as we could. So the season is going till June. Competitions will all be remote. Championship at this point in our region will also be remote. And the fee for doing them this year will be 100 instead of the normal 185. So that is cool, taking into account that everyone has to figure out new fundraising ways and ways to get money. So that is my intro speech. And now if you are ready, okay, to take over.
Vamp for a second.
Oh, so I have to keep talking for a second. Another cool thing that is happening on here today at 1 o'clock, Precision Cut-Ups from Tully has been in contact with Go Builda, and they have some giveaways for 5 teams. I think they have 5 giveaways. So at 1 o'clock, Tanya from Precision Cut-Ups is going to come on, and she's going to present. She's got all the numbers of all the teams who are on, and she's going to pick the 5 teams that will then get some giveaways. So there's that. Okay.
All right. Okay, Ash, where is the other?
No. Yep. All right. So what we're going to do a little bit now, guys, because we have time, a little bit of a layup of how things are going to go. We're going to talk a little bit about Game Manual 1 changes that you guys are aware of, and then some that are coming that when Tyler gets to some of it, I will jump in. For those of you who haven't seen the 2 of us work together, we do a lot of jumping in on each other. So that's going to happen until about 12:10. And at 12:10, Ken Johnson is doing a live conversation with us all that we will stream. Ken Johnson is the president of First Tech Challenge. And then when he is done speaking, then we will show the field. The field is show the game video. The field itself is set up right now to our left. So then after we get done with that, we will actually show you the actual field, and then we will stream questions. It'll be, you guys can chat it just like all the rest of this stuff. So, okay.
All right, so we want to go over a few things that are changing this season that are in Game Manual Part 1, as Lisa mentioned. There's a few technical things that we really wanted to point out to teams, especially since we're not going to be seeing people for inspections. One of the big ones is the control system changing. So modern robotics hardware is all being phased out. So any of those, they're like translucent white boxes, All of those are gone. So everything is going to be Rev Robotics this year. You can use the Rev Robotics Control Hub, which they have been testing for a couple of seasons now, and now it's legal for all teams to use. So if you can get your hands on it, you can use it. The really cool thing with the Control Hub is that it removes the phone from your robot. The Control Hub takes the place of one of the expansions and the Android device that's on your robot. It's got USB connections. It's got all of the connections that you need from a phone, and you can program it just like your phone.
Okay, but
But
not required.
not required.
Not required at all
Right.
to change. Is it decent expense to change it? And it's not, there's not a huge amount of difference. Yes, you have one place where your phone connects to an expansion hub. There's a place of failure. But other than that, so again, in this season of concern about money,
Right.
we want to stress that that's not a have to.
Unless you have, so if you have modern robotics hardware, you do have to switch away from that. So if you currently run 100% mono robotics and you need to move away from mono robotics, personally, I would recommend going with the Control Hub and an expansion hub if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, you can use 2 expansion hubs and a phone. No. There is, so it was mentioned that there is a price difference from 175 to 300 for the Control Hub. And I believe, Lisa, do you know if 300 is before our FTC discount for the Control Hub? Okay. Right. That is pre-discount. Awesome. So there is a small discount that FTC teams get, but it is still, like Lisa mentioned, it is a considerable cost. And if you need 2 hubs, or can you use a phone for driver and a control? So your driver station will still be a Android phone. So you'll still have your phone and your controllers connected via USB hub for your driver station, and then on the robot side, you would just use a control hub and then a potential expansion hub for additional motors. Or as Lisa mentioned, you can still use 2 phones. So you can use a phone and 2 expansion hubs on your robot, and then use a phone and controllers for your driver station. It's really up to you. But like I said, if you can afford it, and especially if you have modern robotics and you're gonna have to transfer anyway, personally, I'd recommend the Control Hub because it gets rid of that USB connection between your phone and your hub, which tends to be a fairly decent problem for people at competitions. But totally not required. You can still go with the phone and 2 expansion hubs. One of the other things that were added that is somewhat exciting is they added the ability to use Sony DualShock 4 controllers. So these are the controllers that you use with a PlayStation 4. You can use the official Sony DualShock 4s, but you have to use a wired connection. So you have to use a USB cable from the controller to your hub and then to the phone from there. You can also use, it's called an ET Park wired PS4 controller, which is the same thing except it is only wired. There's no wireless capability with those. I am recording. Some other things that have been phased out: the Nexus phones, the ZTE Speed phones, and the S5 phones have all been made illegal. So they are phased out. They won't work with the Android software anymore, with the version of the FTC driver and robot apps that you have to use. So those phones were phased out as they won't work. Verification, permit, rev. And they've also changed the rev grounding strap from being something that is allowed to something that is recommended. Stedry's texting me. As far as mechanical changes go, there are a few changes, but the big one is that if you have a servo that is normally a 90 or a 180 servo, you can no longer take those apart and modify them to be major audio lag. We'll slow down and see if that helps a little. So if you have a servo that is mechanically limited, you can no longer remove that mechanical limitation to make it a continuous rotation servo. The weight limit has been removed. The launching limit was changed a little bit. There is no longer a team number stroke minimum requirement. So it used to be that your team number had to be a certain width for the whole stroke of the number. That is gone. So it just has to be visible from a distance. As we mentioned, there is a game launching change. You can now only do a 5-foot vertical instead of a 6-foot elevation. And there's no team scoring elements. Those are the big things. I'll let you talk about the scoring changes or the judging changes. Yeah. And how that's going to work. So I'll hand that back to Lisa, and I'm going to go.
Is the lag any better? Can you see?
Yes. Yes.
All right, guys, sorry, our team is also just starting to join us, so we have a little bit of craziness going on. So one of the hugest changes, obviously, is that we're going remote. And so there's going to be a whole different way that qualifiers work, which we will get into detail. Tina's going to send lots more information, and some of it's still being figured out. But FIRST has come up with a live scoring mechanism that we are going to be submitting our scores to. The other hugest thing, which we'll talk more about that once we get through what Ken Johnson has to say, because I want to follow up on what he says as opposed to saying things before, so you guys hear it twice. But the one big thing that is happening when it comes to judging is about engineering notebooks. Engineering notebooks has always been a really big part of this. Oops, sorry. It continues to be. I mean, we always want to be able to share. You can take that away. I'm not working it. We've always shared our process, how we're doing things, how it will work. Well, now we're going to be being judged remotely. So what's going to end up happening, and this was, let's back up. This change was coming into play before we were going remotely. And now it just happens to kind of work when we're going remotely. So instead of having, you will still as a team create an engineering notebook. But how we used to do it, where we would give them certain pages we wanted the judges to look at and really emphasize some certain things. Instead, what we're going to do now is have an engineering portfolio. It's roughly 15 pages long. I'm not sure how set in stone that is, but it's the number 15 has been what's been being thrown around. And it's basically your highlights. It's basically what you were doing before when you tabbed all your stuff in your notebook to share your stuff. Instead, now it's going to be as a portfolio. And what is going to happen is that has to be uploaded to the judges before you do your judging session. So what is going to happen in a typical qualifier is that each team that is going to that qualifier will be given a judging time with their team ahead of time. And again, some of this is still being figured out. So, I don't have a lot of specific questions, but ahead of time, you will be submitting your engineering portfolio, which is these 15 pages, on a Google Drive, something, so that the judges will actually have it, some form of it, in an electronic form. You will also be doing your control award that way. So you'll be submitting your control award paperwork that way. Anything that you would normally have handed the judges when you walked into the judging room will now need to be submitted to them so that they have it. I'm not sure exactly where we stand on if that's being done, how far ahead of your judging time. That's all to be worked out. But what will happen is then you will get a Zoom, a webinar, a GoToMeeting, whatever we decide, however Tina decides to use, whatever we decide to use, that your team will then go into, and the judges will also go into. Set up however you need to do it, and however we happen to be at that current time, whether it's that your entire team, which I am very excited as I turn around, and this is the first time I've actually gotten to see 4 of my team members in the same room. Whether it's that your team all gets to come to your meeting space and you do it all as one, or if your team has to be in their 5 different houses or 4 different houses and get judged that way. It's all about trying to make sure that the kids are still getting that experience, that judging experience, which is a big part of first. So it's making sure that they have that. They will have the judging. Everyone will be assigned judging times, again, within that week and that time. And then there will be a second time later in the week to where they follow up with you. Because the other thing that we're not having when we're having remote competitions are the time for them to walk through our pits.
So there's a question here, Lisa. Roxanne asks, she said, I'm still a little confused. Does the team need a notebook and a portfolio? Will the judges ever see the whole notebook?
That is still, okay, so did everyone hear that? Wanting to know if you still need an engineering notebook and a portfolio. At this
microphone, so.
At this, oh, so you probably heard him better than me, huh? At this point, yes. At this point, they're going to do both. There's still a little bit of stuff going on with like, how do you get the Think Award? Because the Think Award is always a big one that is all engineering notebook based.
There's a lot more information about this in Game Manual Part 1 that will be released later today. Game Manual Part 1 this season, as in past seasons, kind of had the entire judging section blank and said will be released in the next Game Manual revision. And it is. So in the Game Manual revision, there's a lot of information. It goes very in depth about both the notebook and the portfolio, but we only received it 20 minutes ago. So
we've looked through it very briefly. And again, I think some of it is a work in progress as to how we make that happen. We definitely don't want to take away from the engineering notebook. I feel like the engineering notebook is such a huge accomplishment for the kids to really look at as they're going through it. And honestly, you may not know what you think is good in your this is me. Now I guess let me step back and say this is me as a coach right now, not as a first senior mentor, just thinking outside of the box. You don't necessarily know what some of your greatest accomplishments are or what your greatest day may have been until it's over. Like you may look back and be like, holy cow, like we just figured out that what we wanted worked amazing, even though we had no idea it was going to work. Or so I wouldn't want to necessarily take away from the engineering notebook part, because I'm not sure, you could go into this day and say, oh my goodness, this is the day when we're going to make our drivetrain be the best it could ever be. And you could spend 2 hours at the chop saw and come away with it not having a drivetrain at all. And then that's not going to be your day you want to put in your portfolio. So on the same, and on the same note, something, oh, we use this and oh, look at it, it really worked. So from my point of view, and I guess from my coaching point of view, our engineering notebook isn't going anywhere.
Right.
Our engineering notebook is going to be just like it has been. We are constantly trying to improve on making sure that poor Katie gets what she needs to get and people will listen and help her. And we're not going to take away from that, because I want them to then try to decide what the portfolio looks like. Does
Well,
that make sense?
And the conversation that has been had on a lot of the calls we've been on where they talk about the portfolio in the notebook, of course, we're talking about more in-person type events, but they were saying that they envision it being the portfolio getting handed to the judges during the actual judging room time, but then still having your notebook out on the table so that the judges can come around and look at it. And honestly, so the coaches can come around and look at it is one of the things that excites me. I know I've been at multiple competitions where I've gone to talk to a team about some piece on their robot, and they said, "Oh, let us show you the." Oh, yeah, we don't have our notebook. So I think it would be cool to see the notebooks in the pit so that you can kind of share them with people.
And
But-
again, this was a change that was in place. It's been being worked on for the last year. So this wasn't a change that came around because we went remote. It's kind of being like remote is helping it.
Right.
Or, it's helping, let's put it this way. It's helping
helping
remote because honestly, I can't even imagine if we were now going to scan every page of our engineering notebook to a judge,
Right.
to the judges to see. So it's come about to be good that way. But this was something that was in works way before March when everything
Shut down.
changed and shut down. So Roxanne, I hope that answers it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about ranking.
Yes.
Okay.
The other big change, and again, keep in mind that everything except the remote hub, which is something that we will talk about after you guys actually see the field. All the rest of this stuff was all in place before COVID. It was being worked on. But the one big thing, and I don't know if those of you who have actually looked closely through Game Manual 1, what's happening with Go?
Oh, I'm trying to find my, there we go.
Was that they changed the entire scoring system. So I sent Tyler a quick text yesterday and said, can you just do us a cute little page so that it can be explained? And because he's in IT, he went a little bit further than just a cute little
I
page.
went a little overboard, but
So
it's all
I'm
right.
going to turn this over to him and let him talk a little bit about ranking. Again, we are still keeping our eye on first.
Looks like they just came live, so we'll probably be moving over there in about 15 minutes or so.
Okay, so yeah, so don't worry, we will not miss Ken, but
Right.
we will start to listen to him.
All right, so another one of the things that they changed this year, as Lisa mentioned, is the way the ranking system works, which is something that they actually changed again last year. And personally, it confuses me every year, but I think that the way they're doing it now makes a lot of sense, especially with going remote. So really quick, if I can click here, really quick, I want to talk about how the old ranking system works. So the old system, kind of ignoring the way that they changed it to last year, was that you got 2 points if you won a match, you got 1 ranking point if you tied a match, and you got no ranking points if you lost a match. So I took our match results from a Vermont competition a couple of years back to give some examples. So in this case, we won 2 matches, we lost 3 matches, so we would have had a ranking points of 4. Then you had tiebreaker points that came up after that. Tiebreaker points was the the combined score of the lowest alliance for all of your matches. So in this case, our tie-breaking points would have been 821 points. And that was all you had. You had your ranking points, you were ranked by that first, and then everyone who had the same number of ranking points was ranked again with your tie-breaking points. This year, they've changed it up a little bit. So this year, you're going to have your ranking points, you're going to have tie-breaking point 1, and you're going to have tie-breaking point 2. Your ranking points is just your total team score for all of your matches combined. Your tie-breaking 1 is your autonomous score for all of your matches combined, and tie-breaking points 2 is your end game score for all of your matches combined. With us being remote, it will just be your team score, so you'll do 5 or 6 matches, however many. You'll add all of those together, that will be your ranking points. You'll add all of your autonomous together. That will be your tie-breaking 1 points. If we ever get to go back to traditional, it will be the total of the alliance. So your ranking points will be your total alliance score. Tie-break 1 will be your total alliance autonomous score, etc. So I pulled, again, one of our matches from that same Vermont competition. In this match, we got 55 autonomous points, we got 100 endgame, and we got 26 teleop points. So in this example, our ranking points would have been 191 points. Our tie-break point 1 would have been 55, and our tie-breaking point number 2 would have been 100. So we had the rest of our matches in for that day, and our ranking points would have been 985 points. Our tie-breaking 1 points would have been 420, and our tie-breaking 2 points would have been 300.
Now keep in mind the tie-breaking 1 and tie-breaking 2 are exactly what they mean.
Right.
The first thing that matters is the ranking points. So if only one team or one alliance, depending, because again, this is not going away. So
Right.
this will happen next year when, because I'm completely confident.
We assume it will happen next year.
We assume, yes. I mean, this is not a remote
Right.
change. This is a change that was happening. So ranking points are all that matters in the beginning, unless you have two teams that have a tie. So tie-breaking points, keep in mind, that's exactly what they are.
Right. So first, it's actually gone as far to say that tie-breaking points will be the first way that you're ranked. Anyone with the same or ranking points will be the first way that you're ranked. Anyone that has a tie there will go to tie-breaking point 1. If you have another tie with your tie-breaking point, you'll go to number 2. And if you still have a tie, it will go to random electronic selection of those teams. I don't imagine we'll see much random electronic selection, but it's possible. So any questions on that? I'll give people a minute to kind of digest that a little bit. Which, okay.
One of the things, if we're filling time or not filling time, one of the things I really wanted to talk a little bit about was the First Inspires website. I don't spend nearly as much time on it as I should. And every time I go on it, I'm like, wow, they have a lot of good information out there for us. So yesterday I spent a little bit of time playing on it. One of the big things that they've done is there's a section on it called First At, the at sign like you get like at NICAP, whatever, home. And on there is so many different things that we can use being virtual. There's a bunch of different CAD files. There's a bunch of different, I don't know, there's a bunch of different, all of it. Now I'm drawing a blank.
There's a bunch of resources.
There's a bunch of resources. One of the things that we found, and one of the things we did over the summer, is that we did some on-shapes CADing, because what it was giving us was collaboration in different homes.
Right. So what Onshape is, for people who haven't used it or haven't heard about it before, Onshape is like an Autodesk or SolidWorks. It's a CAD software, but instead of installing it on your computer, you use it right through your browser. So in most of our cases, we use it in Chrome, but you can use it in any web browser. And it has two really good advantages over some of the other software that's out there. The first one is that you don't need a powerful computer to run it. So anyone who's ever run Autodesk or run SolidWorks knows that if you run it on a less powerful like laptop or even an older desktop, sometimes it can really lag and have some issues with it because it doesn't have the power to run it. Onshape allows us to run all of our CAD right on Chromebooks. So we run on Chromebooks, we run on lower end laptops, and we have no problem because it's not actually running on the computer. It's running on your browser, on someone else's software in the cloud, as people call it. The other really big advantage with Onshape is that it allows for collaboration to the same extent as like a Google Drive file. So we used it earlier in the shutdown, as Lisa mentioned. We used it for Onshape did a competition where they had people come in and make robots, and we were able to all log in from our homes, go in and make parts, assemble them together. And even though we were all logging in from different places, we were working on the same parts and on the same robot. And it really allows some nice collaboration, especially in a time like now, where you might have to do all of your CAD work from home and only have 1 or 2 people building in your space.
And Onshape is now, it's actually Onshape by PTC.
Right.
And anybody who's been around for a while knows that PTC has been a huge supporter of First Tech Challenge for a long time. So it's kind of a nice collaboration that's gotten together.
And anyone who used PTC Creo for CAD and did not like it should note that Onshape is much more like SolidWorks and Autodesk. It is really a good CAD piece of software. Tina is trying to post the first at home link, and no one can see her post. So I'm going to
Thank you,
that
Tina,
in chat.
for that. Tyler's going to stick it in the chat. And they are live, so I don't know if we want to go.
Yeah, we can. So we're going to switch over to the first stream for a few minutes. Ken Johnson isn't on yet, but Ken Johnson will likely be on soon. And it might take me a minute to get that set up properly so that everyone can hear what's going on.
And when he's done talking, we will go to the video, which we do have uploaded ourselves. So we will come off the first.
So when they start doing the game video process, basically when Ken stops talking, I'm going to take us back over and run it through GoToWebinar, because I think we'll have a better experience watching that video through webinar than watching it through the stream. But give me 1 minute to get that set up.
Am I not on there now? Am I on there for a minute? Roxanne, I'd love to see what all of our outreach notebooks are possibly going to look like as we've all spent our time sitting in the houses. There it is.
Can you hear audio?
No, you can hear nothing. What's that? Now make it full screen, make it go. Can they see it?
Okay. Now that the ultimate goal game reveal is just minutes away, anything popping out from the teaser, any clues you didn't see before? Sarah, what do you think?
I definitely have some ideas. I don't want to give anything away yet, but I do want to see what our teams think. First Tech Challenge teams around the world have been sharing their predictions with us, and we're excited to take a look, see if anyone's close.
Those were some awesome and very creative guesses. I don't know what cat foosball is or if it's a part of this year's game, but I kind of want to see it.
Yeah, some of those guesses were pretty close, and we can't wait to see what you do this season, teams. Even during the offseason this year, you're already showing us and the world that you're truly game changers. As the world reacted to unprecedented changes, First Tech Challenge teams took action, and you haven't stopped yet. We're amazed at how teams around the world have collaborated and been forces for change in their own communities. We may not have been able to meet in person, but our community is stronger than ever. Let's take a look.
Wow, what an impressive display from our incredible community. You've been working hard and using your collective skills to be a force for change. It's because of you, the next generation of innovators and leaders, that our sponsors, Qualcomm, Collins Aerospace, and PTC's Onshape, invest in the First Tech Challenge. A huge thank you to our first Game Changer season sponsor, Disney and Lucasfilm, and all of our friends in the Star Wars galaxy. And a huge round of applause for returning First Tech Challenge season sponsor Qualcomm and our official program sponsor Collins Aerospace, who want to wish you good luck this season.
Hi everyone, Susie Armstrong here. I'm a Senior Vice President of Engineering at Qualcomm and a proud member of the First Executive Advisory Board. Qualcomm is thrilled to be returning as the season presenting sponsor of the First Tech Challenge Ultimate Goal Game for the 6th year in a row. Staying connected is now more important than ever, and cellular connectivity and 5G strengthens these connections. Qualcomm's wireless leadership continues to support virtual ways of learning for all of us, even in remote and underserved areas. So, this year's first season may look different for everyone being online, but we hope that you are staying safe and finding new ways to innovate. Best of luck to all of the teams, and I'm really excited to see this season's competitions.
Hey everybody, I'm Erin Mitchell, a proud first alum of FTC 4140 Fish in the Boat and current manufacturing engineer in new product introduction at Collins Aerospace. Collins is so proud to be this year's official program sponsor. At Collins, we tackle the toughest challenges every day. Our big goals to make cool stuff happen. So you and your teams should set some big ones this season too. When I was the first student, my team and I challenged ourselves to be better every single year through the robots we built, the outreach we performed, and the friendships and relationships we created. At work, we keep people safe, connected, and informed. Collins is redefining aerospace. How will you redefine this game? I, for one, look forward to finding out. Welcome to the season, team, and good luck.
Thank you, Susie and Aaron. Without the support of our sponsors, volunteers, program delivery partners, and all of you at home, First Tech Challenge wouldn't be possible. And while this season may look a little different for all of us, gracious professionalism remains at the heart of it all. Here's our 2019-2020 Dean's List Award winners to remind us all about the importance of gracious professionalism this season.
Gracious professionalism is acting with integrity and respect on and off the playing field, enabling you to compete against other teams, but also cooperate with them at the same time.
Gracious professionalism means having a sense of dignity and respect towards yourself and others. Beyond all the odds, we are there for each other no matter what.
I define gracious professionalism to be a measure of great responsibility and kindness.
Gracious professionalism is what makes FIRST so unique. It's respect, courtesy, and good sportsmanship all wrapped up in one. We encourage everybody to try their best while also helping each other out, because above all, we are a community first.
Personally, gracious professionalism means that if I want true success, I need to strive for respect and valuing other people's ideas.
It means using technology to make the world a better place and being nice to everyone around us and truly creating a wonderful community that's welcoming and inclusive and that everyone wants to be a part of.
Gracious professionalism is having compassion on other teams and helping them, not just during the competition, but year-round.
Gracious professionalism is about encouragement and giving inspiration while showing modest work and different obstacles. So strive to show your submissive work while giving encouragement and inspiration to others.
An example of this would be exchanging information with other teams to build each other up and help each other grow to be better.
Teams can be gracious professionals this season by volunteering either virtually or in person and really helping our communities during this time. You can use your skills of technology, FIRST, and robotics to really make a difference in this world.
This year, let's create virtual meetups where we share advice and help each other debug problems. And most of all, break down barriers on all fronts. We should use this opportunity to forge new connections and friendships. Let's innovate together virtually.
You can collaborate with other First Tech Challenge teams by sharing your knowledge and experience and helping each other reach your goals.
Good luck, game changers.
Good luck, teams. We can't wait to see how you redefine the game.
Good luck, First Tech Challenge teams, as you get ready for ultimate goal.
Good luck, teams. We can't wait to see you score your ultimate goal.
Good luck, First Tech Challenge teams, as you get ready for the ultimate goal.
Good luck from North Carolina as you prepare for ultimate goal.
Good luck, First Tech Challenge teams.
To all fellow First Tech companions, I wish you all good luck into the new season, and remember to show gracious professionalism.
I love how the FIRST community celebrates gracious professionalism and makes it a priority in your seasons and a part of your everyday lives. Just like gracious professionalism, in ultimate goal, you will set out to make yourselves a collaborative teammate, a respected competitor, and a stronger person.
That's absolutely right, DJ. And we are just minutes away from finding out what it all means. But first, we have an important Dr. Ken Johnson with details about this season's event options and new changes to your robot builds. Let's welcome Ken.
Hey, First Tech Challenge. What a year it's been since last year's live game reveal. Last September, we unveiled Skystone at the Qualcomm World Headquarters in San Diego, California. And this year, we're thrilled to have Qualcomm back as the sponsor of Ultimate Goal. Thanks, Qualcomm. Why do so many First Tech Challenge sponsors stay with us year after year? They see the fun, excitement, and impact this program has on, well, you. And they want more and more folks like you participating so we can continue to change the future together. This year has been different for sure. The situation we're all in, we do. But it's also highlighted how amazing our community is and how well you have adapted. When all this started, first teams didn't sit back. Many jumped into action to help any way they could. I am incredibly proud to see what the First community has done. Those in need. It underscores what all of us in First are trying to do. Thank you. So where are we today? Our team continues to leverage the innovative serialized social distancing rules might continue into the fall as we launch the Ultimate Goal season. Our amazing game design team adapted how Ultimate Goal is played to allow it to be played in traditional events. The in-person event is a new option we call remote events. Your regional program delivery partner, the great folks who may choose to offer remote events if social distancing guidelines and safety concerns don't allow traditional events. Remote events will mirror traditional events as much as robot match play this season. Each remote event will be scheduled over a window of time, up to a full week, decided upon by your program delivery partner. Format as traditional events. The awards teams compete for will be exactly the same. Remote event teams will provide materials to judges electronically to show all the great stuff they've done. Interviews, teams and judges will use video meetings for interviews and deliberations. I know by now you're all looking forward to more video meetings, but I promise these will be fun. Ultimate Goal is the same game, but you'll notice some changes to how team rankings are determined this season in both of these event formats. Team ranking will no longer be based, but instead on the total points your team scores in your official matches. In traditional events, team rankings will be based on total points scored by your alliance in your official matches. In total points scored by your team in your official matches. Tiebreakers and penalties will be the same in both remote event and traditional. Dig into the game manuals to get into those details. If your region chooses the remote event format, your team will be invited to those remote events by your program delivery partner. Or earlier, remote events will be played over a window of time of up to a full week. This allows flexibility to schedule judging sessions. It will also allow teams more time to play official matches for each remote event in which they compete. Remote event teams will play official matches that can be in your basement, garage, or wherever it's set up. Remote event matches will be played on a half field using the half field game sets offered by Andy Mark. Or you can build a half field yourself with instructions we'll provide. But you'll pieces from Andy Mark. Sorry, almost showed you that, and we're just about to show off the game. But you'll need those official scoring option is one that many regions will take advantage of. And regardless of which option your region offers, both using the same judged award and robot competition criteria. In fact, the way we develop remote event format allows regions to transition from remote events to traditional events within the Ultimate Goals group, and social distancing rules are relaxed. Anything else new in First Tech Challenge this year? Actually, yes. Over the last Control Hub with great results. As you might already know, the Control Hub combines the functionality of the Expansion Hub and the on-robot Android handset, or brain, into a single device. Easier, and the physical layout of your robot a bit more flexible. The control hub does not include a built-in camera like Android handsets, all designed to accept USB connected cameras. Not only that, we're introducing USB cameras into the robotics kits this year. We want you to get TensorFlow sensing and logic in your robot designs. Teams can definitely continue to use the Rev Expansion Hub and on-robot Android handset configuration. And we know most of you will. That setup will continue to serve you well in your design. We've also modified judging a bit. Same awards and processes for judging, but this year teams can request judging feedback. First judging and the awards and if you win an award, well, that's some pretty good feedback. You did well. But of course, not every team wins. We want to give teams the opportunity to get feedback if they ask. Grade or score, but some idea on how the judges saw your presentation and your work. Remember, many teams may be submitting A-level work to judges, but the hardest A-level work was the best in that event. Keep an eye out for invitations to monthly calls where our team here at First Tech Challenge will talk about and the FTC live scoring tool teams will use for practice and official matches, how remote judging works, and help you with any technical questions. You're free to see ultimate goal, but what I want to leave you with after hearing what I've shared is a clear understanding that your team has options and how to compete in the really cool game we're just about to show you. And regardless of where you can do this, together we will do this. Thanks and have a great season.
Hey Dave, it's time to play!
Do you think it's going to be a longer game this year?
Remember, team,
you folks be game changer.
welcome
to Ultimate Goal.
Okay, now we should be able to be heard again.
All right, guys. So sorry that was so laggy, and sorry that we kind of repeated the things that Ken Johnson said, but we wanted you to hear it right from the director. I'm sure that that will be on YouTube and probably some other places later, so you might be able to hear it with a lot less lag. But now we actually have the video, and we are going to play it, and it should not be so choppy because it's actually on our computer. So away we go.
Come on.
All right, guys. This is it.
Maybe.
And this is it.
For centuries, sports have played an integral part of our culture. Moving, collaborating, competing, celebrating. We rally around our athletes, lift them up and admire their awe-inspiring moments and stories that give us hope. History has shown societies evolving through time, and so too have sports and the way we play and move together. And now the nature of traditional sports is shifting, and we have the power to be forces for change and redefine the game. Our sports are no longer rooted solely in physical prowess. We must use our minds, our creativity, imagination, and critical thinking as much as we use our muscles. No matter whether our talents lie on the court, in the lab, or with a controller in hand, there's an athlete inside each and every one of us. It's time for us to revolutionize the way we play and move. It's time to be game changers. In Ultimate Goal presented by Qualcomm, you and your team will experience the passion that drives us forward as athletes. With the clock counting down, we revel in the big plays and vital scores, and the lessons we learn when we fail and work with our teammates to recover. Each time our team steps up to a new challenge, we establish bolder goals, fueling our ambitions to work together, enhance our skills, and transcend all boundaries. No matter the outcome, we'll stand up in the face of competition, pushing each other to do better, work harder, and exceed our team and personal potentials. Because together, you are teammates at the top of your game, to score, to win, and to leave a legacy that lasts. It's time to play Ultimate Goal. Welcome to the First Tech Challenge 2020-2021 season game, Ultimate Goal, presented by Qualcomm, part of the first Game Changer season, powered by Star Wars Force for Change. A team consists of up to 2 driver operators, a coach, a human player, and a robot. The robot must be built from materials specified in the game manual and fit within an 18-inch sizing tool, but may expand after the match begins. Each match is played with 4 randomly selected teams, 2 per alliance. Each alliance is allowed only 1 human player. Your opponents for one match may be your partners for another. The game is played on a 12-foot square playing field with a foam tile floor and 1-foot-high walls. 5 unique navigation images are located around the field perimeter. At one end are 2 tower goals, each containing 3 alliance-specific goals with return racks. Between the 2 tower goals are 3 red and 3 blue power shot targets. There are 2 red and 2 blue taped start lines, and 3 red and 3 blue target zone goals. Red and blue tape squares indicate starter stack locations, and a white launch line divides the field. Outside of the field walls are the 2 alliance stations and 2 human player stations. The primary game element is a ring, approximately 5 inches in diameter and 3/4 of an inch thick. A match is played with 20 rings. There are 2 red and 2 blue wobble goals. These can have rings scored onto them and can be moved for additional scoring. Before each match, teams place their robots on the field, touching the front wall and over one of their alliance's starting lines. Each robot must be touching or be in possession of a wobble goal. A robot may possess or touch up to 3 rings. After the robots are in position, field personnel will randomize the starter stacks into one of 3 configurations. This determines which target zone goal is active in the autonomous period. 0, 1, or 4 rings correspond to target zone goals A, B, or C, respectively. Unused rings are stored in the human player stations to be deployed to the field at the start of the driver-controlled period. The players and field are ready. Each match begins with a 30-second autonomous period. During this period, there are a number of ways for teams to score using only pre-programmed instructions and sensor inputs. Delivering a wobble goal to the correct target zone earns the alliance 15 points. A robot parked over the launch line earns 5 points. Each ring launched or placed into the low goal earns 3 points. A ring launched into the mid goal earns 6 points, and launching into the high goal earns 12 points. Robots earn 15 points for each power shot target knocked down. Robots must be completely within the launch zone to launch rings into the mid goal, high goal, or power shot targets. Following the autonomous period is the 2-minute driver-controlled period. During the driver-controlled period, human players are expected to return rings to the playing field, as well as reset power shot targets. Each ring launched or placed into the low goal earns 2 points. A ring launched into the mid-goal earns 4 points. However, rings launched into the opposing alliance's goal earn points for their alliance. A ring launched into the high goal earns 6 points. The last 30 seconds of the driver-controlled period is the endgame. During this time, robots may continue scoring rings, but there are also ways to earn bonus points. Each knocked down power shot target earns 15 points. Returning a wobble goal to the start line earns 5 points. Each ring fully supported by the wobble goal earns 5 points. If a robot lifts a wobble goal over the front wall into the drop zone, its alliance earns 20 points. There are many ways to score in Ultimate Goal, but there are also rules that, if not followed, will deduct points from your alliance. For example, a robot may not block another for an extended period. A robot may not possess more than 3 rings at a time. A robot may not launch rings over the side or front perimeter walls. A robot may not intentionally tip another robot at any time. This has been a brief summary of the Ultimate Goal game. For complete rules, please read the entire game manual and check the Q&A forum. For more information on our remote season, including gameplay and field requirements, please make sure to visit our game and season webpage for the full library of remote event documentation. And always remember the most important rule of First Tech Challenge: gracious professionalism. Good luck, teams, and have a great season.
That's an
All right, guys, it's pretty exciting, right? We have the field here, so now I've moved our computer so that we're kind of in front of the field and you can see it a little bit. And we'll have a few things to cover in front of the field. I'm going to grab the other laptop.
Right. I can feel free to talk, huh? All right, so this is it, you guys. What is happening on remote? Oh, don't do that, because then I can hear myself twice. Is that what you see in front of you is what you get if you order half a field, because it's not really half a field, it's actually a 3/4 field, 2/3, sorry, field. So what it is basically it's 8 by 12. And we ordered half a field, and what we get is what's over there by Ryan is that, right, is the launching goal, and then the things that you push back. I can't think of what they're called right now. And then there's the wobble goal. Brandon is currently standing in the driver station. One of the interesting things, again, we're really just talking remote, guys, because that's all that Excelsior is doing for at least most of the year, probably the whole year. Driver station, which we're used to having to put 2 different teams, we won't. It will only be 1 team. So the drivers can move the whole length of that as they're driving, which was an interesting thing that I just asked Tyler this morning. Where Caitlin is standing is basically the drop zone. So if you're going to drop those wobble goals out at the end of the match, you're going to drop them where Caitlin is. Not sure that it's actually been defined whether we can go across the whole 8 feet. Okay, Tyler says yes, it has been defined, so it can drop anywhere out of here. It would be different, obviously, if we had a second set of alliance on here. But some of that, like some of the stuff even in that video aren't going to matter. We can't score on the wrong person's goal because we only have one person's goal. We think, we know. Okay, Tyler.
Nowhere is it really defined that the center goal is turned into our goal for remote play. I imagine it will be clarified fairly quickly. But it's nowhere in the booklet, even for remote play, does it say that the center goal is actually yours. So, like I said, I think that'll be defined quickly and clarified, but at the moment, it has not been. I'm real quick going to switch webcams to my other laptop because I can't read questions on here. So give me 1 second to set this up.
All right. So my guys ask questions so we can answer them.
There are a few questions I've seen posted, but I can't read them because something weird.
Okay. You can only stack rings on the wobble goals in endgame.
3 rings at a time or 1 ring individually?
I believe because you can. I believe because your possession limit is 3, that you will be able to stack 3 of them. No. On the field, 10 is what we will have when you are remote, because you only have half the field.
What do you mean? Yeah, so if you have, you can score all 10 on, right.
I don't know that.
So we need to reiterate here some questions too, because I know
Okay,
people
sorry.
can't hear that.
He's asking if we can score both wobble goals and if we can put all of the rings on the wobble goals before we drop them into the drop zone. And my answer to that is I'm not sure.
If you can put all the rings on the wobble.
I'm not sure that we can score more than 1 wobble goal.
Oh.
Because we're only one, because I think each team on Alliance should be able to score a wobble goal. And because we only have 1 team, both wobble goals will be on here, but I think we can only score 1. Again,
clarification.
I mean, these are some clarification questions, which we all know the forums will take a couple of weeks and then they will definitely come out with stuff.
All right, so there are a few questions on the webinar that I'm going to answer quick. The first question is, do we need to, you're on camera. Do we need to purchase the full field or does half a field suffice? Half a field will absolutely suffice for remote play. As a matter of fact, for remote play, you have to be on half a field or 2/3, but for purchasing purposes, it's half a field. So yeah, you don't need a full field at all for remote play. We'll only need to get full fields as we get into, if we get into traditional play.
And even if you are to buy a full field for whatever reason, if like your school team and your school's done it, only set it up with half a field. You do not want that extra 4 feet to have to chase around rings.
Right.
You
can't. The remote game has to be done on a 8x12 field.
Okay.
So for the remote game, you have to play on the field that you see here in front of us. So you sort of see because the webcam's kind of weird.
And you're only going to want to.
Right.
I mean, when you think about it, I had this thought before we had seen it, and you don't want your rings rolling further than you need them to in order to pick them up.
The next question was, how do you enter the Go Build a giveaway? We've taken care of that. So all the numbers that we had received went to Precision Cut-Ups, and they have everyone's numbers. So everyone's already entered for that. If there is only 1 human player per alliance and the teams on an alliance are playing remotely, does only 1 team get a human player? So when you're playing remotely, you only have 1 team playing. So you're not playing remotely with a blue alliance. You're not playing with 2 teams on the field. Remote play is just your 1 team. So like, for example, we have our team here. These are who would be playing. We'd have, for example, Ryan and Wyatt and Brandon would be our drivers, and they'd be in the driver's station. Katie would be our human player. She'd be behind the goal, and that's it. So there will never be a second alliance on the field when you're playing remote. When you're playing remote, it will completely just be your alliance. Is there only 1 human player per alliance team? Clients are playing remotely. There's only one team get a human player. Yeah. So that's the case with that. If we're in person, if we ever go back to traditional, it will be like last year, where you'll have both teams in the driver box, and one of those two teams will pick a human player. But remote, you're only one team, and then the one human player from your team.
Now, guys, the other thing that gets a little bit weird when we got the field and what we currently have is it's all netted. There's nets here. There's a net
They
here.
can't really see it here.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a net here. There's a net here, so that it doesn't get. Yeah. Well, so it's protecting Katie or your human player.
Ish. Katie's head would be above it, but
But yeah, but the problem is it's used to be connected to this one.
Right.
That's here, it's not here.
right. The one side one, the one in the corner would work. The one in the corner over there would work fine because it actually connects to the corner of the field. But the one where Lisa's standing, we're not quite sure how that attaches yet. So I'm hoping for clarification as we go in, but we'll have to see what happens there.
So right now, so the one thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about your setups in your rooms or wherever you're putting this is that as much as you've shortened it to 8, you kind of have to lengthen it to 16. Because you're gonna need at least 2 feet on each side of the 12-foot thing, because you're gonna need your drop point and you're gonna need all that's
Should have
behind.
made Tina a panelist. Right. So the next question was, do we need to buy the remote field for remote play? Currently, yes. If you're going to play remote, you have to get access to a field. I guess technically you don't have to buy it.
Okay, let's re-clarify that.
You should come closer to the computer. Come this way.
Sorry. You have to have a field in order to play.
Right.
The question is going to be how things unfold in our different areas and how much sharing, inviting, allowing to have other people at your space. It's what that's going to come down to is what.
There was a clarification of the question. Do we need to buy the remote specific version? So the remote specific.
There is no remote specific
version.
Version.
Right. So it's just a half field purchase from Andy Mark. So when you go to the Andy Mark site, you can get the full field or you can buy the half field, and the half field is the remote version. Yeah. So there's also talk of potentially a DIY option. I'm not sure where that is at the moment, but there were rumblings of a DIY going.
Okay, I have a question that has come to my phone because
Is
Mark
that the
can't
same
use
question
the
that I
chat.
have here, the 6 versus 8
No.
Okay.
She has an official perimeter.
perimeter? Right.
Is there an easy way to shrink it down? My question would be, are they not in 4-foot sections? I thought all perimeters were in 4-foot sections. So you could just remove 2 4-foot sections to get yourself to the 8.
And we're being told that they are full. So yeah, so a half field is actually a bit of a misnomer here. There's a few questions of that. So I'm going to answer that real quick. Half field is not a half field. A half field is actually a 2/3 field. When you buy it from Andy Mark, they call it a half field because you get half the elements, you get half the wobble goals, and you get half the scoring goals. But your setup is actually a 2/3 field. So it's 8 feet by 12 feet or 2 panels by 3 panels.
When you look at if we go by the number of tiles that you have on the field, you're going to have 4 tiles by 6 tiles.
Right.
So you're going to have 24 of your normal, where normally we have 36.
Right. There was a question of, can we set up, can we build the 12 by 12 arena and only set up half the elements? No, the way that the remote book is set up is that you have to have a 12-foot by 8-foot field. So that's how it should be set up. You also don't want to set it up as a 12 by 12 because then you have more space you need to run around after things. But more importantly, the remote game manual is specific to a 12 by 8 field. So that's going to be what you want to set up, is a 12 by 8 field set up that many mats, and then set up your half elements there. All right, let me see if I can. We had a question of when is the first competition? Do we know when the first
We
competition
do
is?
not know when the first competition is, but it's already been discussed. Like Tina is thinking definitely not December. Maybe the end of January. More likely, the email she sent out, she said February to late April was her time frame. And I'm not sure if she's still on, because I know she was going to pop into the other ones as well. The remote hub that FIRST is working very hard at getting up and running for all of us to use, event coordinators to use, for us to play with, because there'll be a part of the remote hub that is a practice. So without submitting actual scores, you'll get to play with it. All of that is still in beta testing. It's due to come out October 1st in beta testing and probably go live for everyone to use as of November 1st. So until it gets to that point, we don't have any way to effectively submit scores and do all the FTC live score that we want. And just in general, because people are still, the amount of time people can spend together, the amount of space people need to have to be together, we're all hoping that that's going to get better as time goes on. And so we're also looking at how to make it work for everybody. Obviously, schools still, so many schools. I mean, we're up north of Albany. Our school district isn't even thinking about going back in person for another 3 weeks. And I know that there's a lot of differing views on all that. So it's also trying to give us more time.
There was a question on, does it matter what side you buy? What about navigation markers? So it does not matter which side you buy. The setup guide is for the blue side, but it clearly indicates as you go through it that if you are setting up the red side, you just reverse a few of the things that you're doing.
And you guys, somehow we didn't end up with printing out navigation markers.
Right, but navigation markers will be just available. I believe they're in the end of one of the.
I think they're in the game setup.
Yeah, in the
which
game setup guide.
We'll have. And FIRST has said that all of that game manual 2 remote
It's 2 o'clock.
game setup is 2 o'clock. So after 2 o'clock, if you go on the FIRST Inspire site, you should be able to get some of that.
Right. Oh, it's actually at the end of game manual part 2, navigation images.
Oh, all right. So apparently we maybe do have them then.
We might.
If we look far enough. But anyway, there's one that's going to go over by Brandon and Ryan, and there's one that's going to go in front of where you dump. And I'm not sure what's happening on this side, to be honest with you.
I think
it stays
blank, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So that's something that again, clarification. Ryan,
Well,
you have a
more
question.
than-
Wait a second.
Okay.
We're going to take a question from the audience.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's talk about that for a minute. The question was which one of the boxes, which now you can kind of see the boxes, which one of the boxes are you in and how do you determine that? So there will be a piece of tape right about here. I'm hoping, can you watch that computer, make sure they can see? Right about here, there will be a piece of tape with that will either have the 4 rings, like what we have now. It will have 1 ring, or it'll have no rings. So they did it weird in the video, but no rings is box 1, which is this one here, or I think they called it box A, is no rings. Is the one kind of in the middle of the field up against the driver's station. If there's 1 ring on the floor, on the tape mark, it will be box B, which is the middle of the 3 boxes and away from the wall. And then if there are 4 rings on the floor, it will be box C, which is the one in the back corner here. How you're going to detect whether or not there are how many rings is a Caitlin problem. So we'll figure that out later. There will be a randomizer tool, I assume, like there normally is at a competition. So when you go to start your match, you'll click randomize, and you'll be given a B, or C, or something like that, which will tell you how many to place and which setup you're in.
And you will have some that are preloaded in your robot,
Up to 3.
up to 3. And then the rest will live with the human player. So the human player, let's say our robot is 2. The human player gets these.
Right.
Tyler, can you now check to see if you can see us?
Yeah, you're a little low, but
Okay. And the way that the human player gets to introduce them to the field is little chute right here, which has a definite issue. So when you go to put it on, you have to put these little nubby things to the inside. Well, when you do that, your rings get stuck. So we're thinking that there's also going to be a little bit of something said about that.
well, there has actually been something said about that to an extent. For starters, your human player is allowed to bring a tool to the field to dislodge the rings that are stuck there.
Because obviously you can't be like this,
Right.
because you can't be in the field, because you will get hit by the robot and perhaps the moving ring.
Right. So we've been told that you're allowed to bring a tool. I'm hoping that they're going to clarify that we can tape over those little pieces so that it doesn't get stuck as easily. But that is yet to be seen. There were a couple of more questions from you guys. Will there be more than one competition? I think that's a pretty yes.
Yes.
Pretty confident yes.
Part of that survey that Tina sent out asked how many of them you wanted to attend. So when she gets a feel for how many of them, how many people we're trying to accommodate, that will determine how many competitions. Obviously, competitions are looking different because competitions are happening in your workspace.
Right.
Like you're not going anywhere. Like it doesn't, so as far as finding places to have competitions, that problem has gone away, at least for a large part of this year, because you're doing it in your own workspace.
So there's another question of, is 5 gigahertz legal? So for those of you who aren't sure what that is one of the Wi-Fi options. So with Wi-Fi, you can have 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. I should know the answer to this. I don't know the answer to this at the moment, but I believe that the answer to this is yes. From what I understand, 5 gigahertz will be legal. As it was mentioned, the control hub is able to use 5 gigahertz. Some of our phones are able to use 5 gigahertz. I believe that if you use 5 gigahertz, it will be legal. But I will take some time to check on that and probably send out in one of our, I'm sure there will be many emails coming out from Tina and Lisa in the near future. And one of them I will have them include that 5 gigahertz is or is not legal. But I'm fairly sure it is.
This is where I become organizational and I have
Right.
no idea what you're even asking. But on to the next question that I am thinking is you also need to have a field personnel, okay? Because what is not happening, let's be honest, you shoot for there, your robot's going the wrong way, now it's over here. Somebody needs to retrieve the ring. It will not be your 3 drivers, and it will not be your human player.
Can be a human player.
It can be your human player, I guess, if you want it to be. My thought is if you can have it be a 3rd person or a 5th person, I guess we're up to at this point, you want it to be. Because you don't want their gameplay to change. They should be doing their own thing. And then someone else should be retrieving the ring. The ring then goes to the human player, and the human player is the one who has to reintroduce it to the field. So the rings are always being introduced from this spot. So you've got a question.
Right, and they have to be reintroduced
Oh,
from that
can we-
point. What?
Doesn't count. So,
Can it be reset?
In
yes.
autonomous, it does count.
Yes, but in between. Yes, so in autonomous, so this is how it's going to start, okay? They're all facing forward. Sorry, the question is about, what are we calling these?
Those are called power shots.
power shots, talking about power shots. So we can shoot power shots during autonomous and endgame, but not during the regular play game. So in autonomous, you hit this one and this one. So another job if you're a human player, there is this device that brings it back to reset it. Now you could spend your entire end game shooting these, and she has 10 seconds to bring them back.
No.
What? Okay.
You can
All right,
only
never
store those
mind.
once. So
Then what's the 10-second rule?
So in autonomous, you can shoot at those and you can knock them over. If you knock any over in autonomous, the human player is then expected to set them back at some point during driver teleop, whatever that.
Yeah.
That thing, the time. The 10-second grace period is that so let's say somebody scores one of these, and it's now counted for them. If it stays like this and Katie doesn't put it back before endgame starts, they're not allowed to be scored. So it's even if she sets it back 20 seconds into endgame, it's no longer eligible to be scored. Right. The 10-second grace period is that she has 10 seconds into the beginning of endgame to reset these. Personally, I would say as soon as you get into driver period, just reset them. Because it's going to get weird otherwise. But that's what the 10-second grace period is.
Gotcha.
You have 10 seconds
in
to end it.
All right, more questions.
I have a bunch of things I can go over if no one else has specific questions.
All right, go ahead. Do you guys have any questions here? And no.
No, what's the rule on that? Because like in the past, lift anything below a quarter.
I don't know that it's come out.
There
So
has-
the question is, can we damage?
Not can, if they get damaged, there's a penalty.
Right,
Watching very clearly, he doesn't want to damage the ring, but where is the so in the past when we had the glyphs, so okay, I guess we need to give other context.
Yeah,
These rings are very soft. So these are kind of foam rings with like a plastic coating that can squish and are very pliable. So they're not quite as soft as the glyphs were, but they're definitely softer than like a wiffle ball. Stop sharing screen. Am I sharing the screen? I didn't think I was sharing the screen. Can you stop sharing screen so we can see your video in the center instead of a tiny thumbnail? I didn't think I was sharing the screen. Let's see what happens if I close that. Oh, hey, maybe that's better. Sorry, I didn't catch that earlier. Yes, I got it, yes. Okay, yep, I didn't realize the video didn't actually stop sharing, so that was my bad. Sorry about that. So these rings are fairly soft. I don't think they're going to be as easy to damage as the glyphs were because of that plastic outer coating that's on them, or rubber or whatever coating it is. But I'd say that they're about as squishy as like a compliant wheel, honestly. I think they're about the same level. That's what Ryan was saying. And the outer surface kind of feels like a compliant wheel too. So I don't think we're going to damage them very much, but there's no like with the glyphs we were allowed up to a quarter size hole or whatever. There's none of that in the rulebook. Basically, don't damage them. But I don't think we're gonna damage as easy as the glyphs. I mean, we destroyed our glyphs the year that we did them just because of our intake. I did look a bit more at the Wi-Fi question. There was no real clarity that you can use 5 gigahertz, but also no clarity that you can't use 5 gigahertz. So that would be a question for the forum when it opens up that you can ask them there, which is actually an important thing to mention. So for those of you that maybe are a little newer to this, there is a what do they call it? FTC question forum. The FTC forum that they open up. It'll open up in a couple of weeks. and that's the official place to get an answer. So you could ask me and Lisa all the questions in the world, and we can give you all the answers in the world, but the final answer and the official answer comes from the forms. So basically how it works, and I'm going to read this a little bit. Basically how it works is the game video is not official at all when it comes to rules. Game manual part 2 and part 1 are the primary source of rules, and then anything that's said in the forms overrules anything that's said in one of these game manuals. So there's a clarification forms and there's a game rule clarification, there's a software clarification, there's a hardware, there's a bunch of them. Those are the final say of everything. So if you ever have a question, especially about like how, are we allowed to do X, Y, Z, that really needs to go to the forums. You can certainly ask us because we may know, I may be able to point you right to the rule in the game manual that says, yes, you can. But I also might come back to you and say, you need to post that into the forums. People on Reddit hate me because I post that nonstop. I'll follow people around and say, you need to ask that in the forums because we can't answer you. Is there friction between the rings and some metal? Is there a lot of friction between the rings and some metal? Okay. Brian, would you say that there's a lot of friction between the rings and metal? Not really?
No.
No, the rings are fairly smooth. They're really like a hard plastic rubber type.
But flexible.
Right, they're flexible, but they're more of the smoothness is probably that of like a Tetrix wheel. So it's a very smooth rubber surface. So there's definitely not between like a piece of metal and the rings. There's not a lot of friction.
One of the things that we have talked about, you guys, and this is kind of going with this, but kind of just going with remote in general, is that there will be more of these kind of what we're doing today throughout at least the beginning, probably the whole season, for refereeing and especially refereeing and scoring, because we're going to do it all ourselves this year. So you are going to have to know what counts and what doesn't count in order to, you can't just go to the field and play a game and then have somebody else say, yep, this is your score. Not that people do that in general, but you're going to want to know the ins and outs a little bit more than you usually do, because it's going to be up to you to score it the right way.
Right, and so the online tool, in theory, should make it a lot easier, because it should just be as simple as every time a ring goes through the top goal, you press plus next to the top goal. Every time it goes to the middle goal, you press top of the middle goal, etc. down all the different scoring things. Kind of like if anyone's ever seen the scoring system that they have in active competition with the tablets, it'll be the same idea as that. So that's what we expect to see, which will make it easier to score, but you're really still going to want to know, the rules, and you're really still going to want to know the official of things so that you kind of know what you're getting in case there's a weird glitch with the system or anything like that. Let's see. So I'm going to just go through the game manual part 2 really quick that I had sitting in front of me, and Lisa and I have highlighted some important things that need to be mentioned. So I'm going to mention anything that hasn't been mentioned yet.
And I'll make them go fast.
Watching game. We don't need that. We've covered that already. That's got nothing there. Got nothing there. The drop zone we mentioned is the area outside the playing field. It will be towards the audience side. So the audience side is the drop zone. The scorekeeper side generally is where the scoring is, and the driver station is over there. For a red field, the driver station would be where I'm standing. It's really the only difference there.
Yeah, because they're mirrored, guys. They're not opposite. They would be mirrored. So
Right.
you would end up with another one of your power shots, and then
About
another field.
3 inches below the webcam. That's okay. No, the goal is about 3 inches below the webcam. So yeah, so if you were to run red side, as Lisa mentioned, your power shot would be on the other side, and your goal would be on this side. So that's the only difference there. All right, we can go back up with that because now you're just looking at my belly. Keep going. You're just moving the laptop now. Wonderful Greg Stevens is behind the camera. We appreciate his help dearly. So that's the drop zone stuff. Field personnel, as Lisa mentioned, will be people from your team. You're going to want at least one or two. You probably want to assign someone that's going to do your scoring, that will do all of your scoring. They should be someone that knows the game rules very well, as we mentioned. You're going to probably want somebody that's going to be really good at just resetting the field, making sure that it's set up the right way. Yeah. Let's see. So there's a question here. After the human player places rings into the funnel to be put back into the game, does the ring have to touch the ground before it is picked up by the robot, or can the robot just take it as soon as it's released from the funnel? For the low zone, can you just take it from the funnel right into the low zone, or do you have to bring it back to the launch area? Okay. Big question, but good questions. So I'm going to verify real quick, but hang on 1 second for me. So, yeah.
Actually, no, it has to touch the floor. I
Does
did
it?
read it somewhere. It has to touch the floor before you pick it up.
Okay.
You cannot put your robot right there
Right
and then
there,
have
okay.
her drop it in. No, but it has to touch the floor.
The thing that I was getting caught up on, so the human player can also reach into the tower, the scoring tower, to grab rings out if they get stuck. But in order to reach into the tower, the robot has to be at least 24 inches back. So it has to be one full tile away from the tower before they reach in. But it does not look like there is the same condition with putting it in to the, returning it to the field. However, as Lisa said, she read that it does need to be, it does need to touch the ground. Right, it has to go neutral before it's allowed to be picked up again. What are the inner and outer dimensions of the ring? Right, guy, can you grab a tape measure and measure the inner and outer dimensions of the ring? So, these are an inch thick for the ring. They are 3 inches in the middle, and they are 5 inches on the outside. Right, how thick were they? And in the flat direction, they're 3/4 of an inch thick. Thank you, guys. Can the human player also reach into the power goal if someone gets a ring? Reach into the power goal if someone gets a ring on them. Oh, you mean the power shot? I assume so. If you were to somehow like loop a ring onto the power shot, I assume that the human player would be able to take them off. Personally, I think you should get like 200 points if you're able to do that, but I assume that the human player will be able to take them off of the power shot. They can also, if they get stuck in the goal, they can reach in and pull them out of there, assuming the robot's back 24 inches. And I think the same would be said for the power shot. If you happen to get a ring looped onto the power shot, I think the robot would probably have to be back 24 inches, and then the human player can go and grab them out. So our guys are measuring the wobble goal right now, so we can give you the dimensions of that. 9 and 3. Okay, so this part here is 9 3/4 from the base to the top of the rod. The top of the base to the bottom of the base is about 3 inches. Yeah, so that would make the whole thing about 12 inches tall. How wide is the circle? The circumference of this is about 8 inches, or the diameter of this is about 8 inches. And what's the diameter of the rod? And the rod is about 1 inch wide. So that's 9 inches tall, 3 inches tall, 8 inches wide for the base, and about 1 inch wide for the rod. And they do wiggle quite a bit. They are very not stable. But one of our guys said they do not like to tip. So they shouldn't get stuck on their side, but they will wiggle quite easily. Okay, so that was that answered. 8-foot power shot we covered. 10 rings we covered. Score live. Can you hold the wobble goals in place with the robot while putting rings on them? So you can hold the wobble goals in place with the robot while putting rings on them. You can also control the wobble goal. So you can pick up the wobble goal. You can start the match in possession of the wobble goal. You can score it as part of your match. So you can put it down and then pick it back up. But you can possess the wobble goal. You can hold it in place and hold it level, or you can pick it up and just carry it in your robot.
You cannot score rings until endgame though.
Right. So you can't start stacking rings onto the wobble goal until endgame begins. Yeah, so no, so rings on the wobble goal are not counted towards possession. You can stack as many as you want onto the wobble goal, and then when you put it over the side, they still continue to count. Right. 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 No, if your rings fall off of that once you've dropped it, even outside of the field, then you don't get points for those rings.
That is an end of game scoring.
Right. So
There's
that is
certain things that happen as you play. I don't know if you guys.
that was actually the next set of definitions to go over.
Okay. So the question was, if you take the wobble goal outside of the field, but it tips when you do it, will you get credit for those for those rings? The answer is no. You get scored the wobble goal at the end when time is over. So if they fall off at the end, they fall off at the end and you don't get them.
Students 107. Do you want to switch over to cut ups real quick and let them do that?
Oh, Tanya, I am so sorry. It is more than 107. We have forgotten about you.
Oh, it's 111.
Yeah, sorry. Cut ups. Very, very sorry.
So Tanya, if you are, oh, there you go.
All right then, it's fine. Like we're just answering questions. It's fine. But our team is. Am I good to go or?
Yep, go ahead.
I can hear you now.
All right then. Our team uses Go Build Up parts, and we think that they're pretty great. And the website for GoBuilda.com, they're having a promotion for FTC teams. You can get a chassis for $150 there. And they've also donated prizes that we're going to be giving out. So the prizes that are being offered are the Beeline chassis kit, one of those, $50 store credits, there's 3 of those, Go Build a hat, Go Build a t-shirt. So I'm just going to be picking team numbers out of a hat for the prizes. If you hear your team number being called out for a prize, then would you please post your email address and mailing address in the chat so that I can get it down. We can get your prizes to you. All right then, so for the chassis kit, it's team number 11975. 11975.
You don't know the names of these, do you?
Not off the top of my
Okay.
head. Some of them I just know.
Tanya, if you want to pull numbers, I will find the names, and once you pull all 5 numbers, I will put names with those numbers.
Okay. 975. For the first of the $50 store credits, we have team number 11995.
Awesome. That would be Taka. The
For
first
another store credit, we have 6955.
that would be us. Oh, we
For
can
the
hand them.
last store credits, we have team 4654.
4654.
For the hat, we're having team 9999.
Nine Joes.
From Canada.
And for the t-shirt, it's gonna be team 7420.
Margaret.
Okay, so I'm going to real quick grab the names of those teams. 4654. Who's that?
Jellyfish.
Jellyfish. So we had 11975, I believe, won the chassis, and that is Robo Falcons. The first gift card was to 11995, which is Team Taka. The second gift card actually was our number. The third gift card was to Jellyfish, which is 4654, Team Jellyfish. 9999 is Team Ninjas from Canada. And 7420 is Burnt Hills. So I have Mecha Spartans, who won the t-shirt. So I have the Mecha Spartans email. I have the 11995 Taco's email, and that's all I have so far. So
Okay.
those of you who won raffle items, please either put your number or put your contact information into the question box, or you can email it to our team, the NY Robovine email, or the T Russell email that sent you the webinar invite, and we will get that to Precision Cutups.
Yeah, Tanya, we can connect afterwards too, because I know that I can get access to most of their addresses
Awesome.
through Tina as well, or my FSM page.
So Ty, thank you very much for that.
And Precision Cutups, thank you very
Precision
much.
Cutups.
All you guys, that was awesome.
Right, we
All right,
knew
then.
nothing about this. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, we do. We appreciate it a lot.
And that was Go Builda's things that were raffled by Precision Cutup. So we really appreciate that. Kind of a weird question, but could you guys talk about our team? Yes, I'll get to that in a second. There's a Discord channel. So I'm gonna go back to questions that were on our that were posted by you guys. One of them I didn't catch this, but there was is there a bonus for rings that are scored over the border? There is not a bonus for rings that are scored over the border. So there are points that you can get for scoring rings on the wobble goal, regardless of where the wobble goal is at the end of the match. Then there are points for scoring the wobble goal over the border. But you don't get a bonus for scoring rings on the wobble goal and then putting the wobble goal over the field. So you only get those points once. Any idea how robot and field inspections will work at remote events? Robot and field inspections are kind of going to be an on your honor kind of thing for remote events. So I don't know if we have more information to share about that. I think we're having calls that we're going to offer, aren't we?
We are. We're gonna do some calls on inspections. One of the things that our team has never had and will have this year is going to be an 18 by 18 by 18 box. So that you could, because the rules apply, we're just not necessarily gonna have all the equipment we need that we would normally have at a competition. So, you still need to make sure that it can get done. Again, I'm not completely sure, like if you end up not having, buying an actual field, because you don't actually have to buy a field, I'm hoping and expecting that there will be some key points, as long as things stay the way they are, to be able to invite teams to come. But that still is not a refereeing thing. That's still you guys taking care of it yourselves.
Right. And I mean, we're always very, very willing to take questions and answer questions. I normally, in a normal season, I would be both an FTA and a robot and field inspector. I normally fill those roles in a normal season. And if people are having questions this season, please feel free to email our RoboVines email. You can email Lisa's FSM email. You can email Tina. We are all here to help. So if there are any questions on if something's legal, if you can, put a certain part, any of that kind of stuff, we will happily be able to answer those questions. And did you mention having people come to us?
I did.
Okay. I was only half paying attention. So, and like Lisa mentioned, we would love to see in the future people being able to get together or us being able to come to people.
We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, it's all going to be what we're allowed to do. Memorex Tigers mentioned that they are trying to start a New York Discord to allow people to communicate within the region a little bit. Java Scouts was starting to work on a website. I'm not sure where that's at, but Java Scouts kind of working on a website, I think. Memorex Tigers wanted to post their Discord link, so I'm going to post that into the chat for people if you're interested in that. Margaret mentioned that she hopes to bring the field outside at some point. I hope we can do that too before it snows.
And part of one of my calls that I was on with First, which is actually like a nationwide question, part of making our season longer definitely has been the conversation about what could go outside, what kind of competitions could be held underneath tents. Because obviously up here, we do deal with a different set of weather elements than say the people in Florida. So yes, outside is a very awesome idea for when we think we can do that. Ryan,
the only
just
thing
brought
that
up a
terrifies me about outside is dirt and robots from our weeks at fair.
Yeah, there is
So you
that.
do want to be careful of that.
Ryan did just ask a question, and I don't know if Tyler knows the answer to this.
Yep.
Once you place the wobble goal outside into the drop zone, can you score more rings?
I don't see why not. I haven't seen any sort of rule that would prevent you from doing that. You're not allowed to launch those rings outside of any boundary of the field except the side that the scoring is on. But there's really been no clarification about whether or not you can add to your wobble goal. Yes. So you can start with that loaded in your robot. One of your options is to place it in one of these target zones. Then as far as I've read, there's nothing that prevents you from picking it back up before endgame, but you cannot score rings on them before endgame. They won't count. Correct.
Right. If they're on the wobble goal before endgame, I believe they're just there, but they don't count at all. Again, that could be clarification. The other thing I would say, and you guys haven't gotten to really look at the game manual, before you're deciding whether you want to put more on the wobble goal, you might want to figure out where the best scoring mechanism of that ring is. You might be better off in end-game scoring. You know what I mean? Like,
Hold on, let me get back to that. It's here
so,
somewhere.
and that's just a caveat for my team and for all of you guys. Like, you got to figure out where the best use of your rings are. The best use of your rings may not be to keep going to the wobble goal. Stop messing with our wobble goal.
Right. So the kind of weird. Are homemade cardboard tower goals legal for competition? This is where it starts getting weird and getting interesting. Officially, my answer would be to go to the forums. This would be one of my forum questions. Somewhat less officially, I know there was talk about a DIY build guide coming out. I don't know if or when that will be
Ken
released.
did say that on the video that lagged really
Okay,
bad.
yep.
He did say there was a DIY.
Okay. So there will be some sort of DIY. I don't know if it will be, I assume it will be more like a thin plywood and PVC setup, probably not cardboard. It is kind of that weird plasticky corrugated.
Yeah, this is only really one step up from.
Right. So that cover is kind of a corrugated plastic. The angled pieces are more of that acrylic and metal piece that's what was the game last year? Skyscraper. Did we use anything that had nothing really had that material last year? 2 years ago, we had that thin metal and plastic stuff. And that's really what the angleds are, but I don't see any reason why that couldn't be at least a thin sheet of plywood, if not cardboard. But the official answer on that would really be, you're gonna have to go to the forums and ask that question, because we can't make a ruling on what is and isn't a legal field. Wish we could, but we get in trouble when we start doing those kind of things. The team must use built-in 30-second timer. Wobble goal. So the wobble goals are 15 points when they're in their target during autonomous.
So there is the one page game summary is out, or will be out, so that you guys can just look at that quickly, and game manual 2. Honestly, you guys, at this point, there's not a lot of need to look at the traditional one. They're coming out with a remote and they're coming out with a traditional. We're not going to use stuff that's not.
Tina just posted information on the DIY field. Says yes, a DIY will be a cardboard build and will be legal. There are minimum required parts that must be bought, namely the wobble goals and the rings. The rest can be built using the DIY build guide. So that's some good information from Tina, and hopefully that DIY build guide will be available at 2 o'clock so people can see what's on that. Lisa, you're in the shot and currently yelling at her kids. The power shots are worth 15 points in autonomous. One of the things that is important that was kind of briefly mentioned in the video, there is this shooting line that's about,
and that is such a big,
right, that is currently our straps that hold our field together. But there is a shooting line that is slightly closer to the launching, or slightly closer to the goal.
80 inches from that.
It's 80 inches from the audience side of the field, I'm being told. In order to launch into the middle or the high goal, you have to be behind that line. So anything that is launched in front of that line won't count. You can dump directly into the low goal, but the middle or the high goal, you have to be behind that line. Yes, behind me, every part of the robot is behind that line. and I believe on that line is considered within. So if you, where is our? So assuming that this is like a tape that is on the floor, if your robot is on the tape but not across it, you will be considered in launch. But you need to be completely in the launch zone.
Yeah, and Ryan was asking if, once it's launched, can you then cross the line? My feeling on that would be yes, like if you're on your, so you launch it, you now don't have possession. You don't have to wait till it's actually scored. I mean, we are talking seconds, obviously, but once it's left possession of the robot, if you're then gonna go and, because you want to pick up another ring further ahead of you, yes. It's just that you have to be behind the line until you have given up possession of the ring.
Right, so the official definition of possession this season is an object is in possession by a robot if, as the robot moves or changes orientation, the object remains in approximately the same position relative to the robot. Basically meaning that moving the robot has to be what moves the element. So once you launch it, like Lisa said, you are out of possession. So you can cross that line as soon as you launch it. That is in possession. So any inadvertent. So the question was, if you're in control of three rings, a ring were to bounce off the tower or be loaded back in and it ran into your robot, would you be in possession? Inadvertent possession, like in the past, is still a thing this year. So if Katie were to load a new ring in and it rolled across the field and bounced into your robot, that wouldn't be possession. But and this is going to probably be more in the traditional, but we could see it if you bounce off the backboard. Say you shot a ring, it hit the backboard, bounced back and landed in your robot. You're back in possession of that ring, and now you can only have 2 additional rings. Right, if it gets caught in your robot, just like in pastures, it still counts.
With the intent to score more, if it dropped back in.
If it hits your bot and you can get away from having protection. I mean, a lot of it, we're back to that 5-second.
Right.
Like how quickly can you get away from it?
Well, and possession is really having control of it. So if, like, you can plow through rings, if you have 3 and you're driving and you push a ring out of the way as you're driving somewhere, that's not possession, that's plowing. Because you weren't in possession, you weren't trying to guide the ring to where you wanted it, it just happened to be plowed out of the way. So the same thing I would say is if it bounces off your robot, it's not possession.
I mean, I think we'll see a little bit less hurting and stuff
Right.
this year because you don't have as many on the field. Those of us, right. Those of us who remember some older games and even double rings. I mean, if this was a full field, you would have 20. With only 10
Right.
and you being there yourself, it's gonna be a little harder.
Wobble goals. So a wobble goal outside the field is worth 20 points at the end. And the wobble goals are not, if you score a wobble goal outside, the rings don't get any sort of bonus. So the rings are worth 5 points regardless of where the wobble goal is. Did you have another question, Ray? Okay. Post-match, flow chart. So one thing that people need to be very good with, even when you're remote, you still need to be wearing safety glasses at the field. Your drivers need to, your human player needs to, and any other personnel working around the field really should. So if you have an additional field personnel that's going to be collecting rings from behind the human player, they should have safety glasses on. Really, if you have somebody scoring, they should have safety glasses on. Your best bet when you're running one of these events, or when you're running one in your own meeting space, just going to be to have everybody wear safety glasses. It's just, you're going to be better off, and it's going to protect everybody. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that First has been very big on and that needs to be very clear for people this season is kind of how running a remote match is going to work. Specifically, that once you start a match, that is the start of your match. You have as much time to practice and do what you want to do, and there will be a window in which you run your matches. But if you, say we're at one of our meetings, it's competition week, and we say, okay, we're going to run our first match of the week. As soon as we say start on that match, that is the match. So if we say start, and then we go to move our robot and it does nothing, and we figure out, hey, our power switch is turned off, oh well. Our robot sits there for 2.5 minutes and we don't score any points for our match. So First really wants it to be as real to life as a traditional, even when you're remote. So if you lose a wheel, you forget to turn your robot on, any of that kind of stuff, that match, as soon as you hit start, is the match. No pausing, no replaying, no reaching into the field, turning your robot on. Once you hit start, you have to follow the normal rules, just like at a normal competition. The kind of different thing from a competition, like I was mentioning to Ryan earlier, you could have a point where if competition is Monday through Sunday, you do your first match Monday night and it goes horribly, you don't need to run another match until Thursday, assuming you still can have access to the field and you still can run matches. You don't have to say Monday night we're running a match and you have to run all 5 matches Monday night. So that's a little different than in person, where normally, maybe you'd have 7 minutes. Now you can have, 2 days between matches. It's going to be a little different, and it's kind of nice because if you run your first match on Monday and something breaks, you have some time to fix it instead of being at a normal competition. But importantly, once you've hit start on your match, you have to run the match. There's no stopping, no replaying, no pausing, none of that. One of the notes on the human player. So the drive team may go anywhere in their respective alliance station. So namely Brandon and Ryan over there could go, which you can't see, could go anywhere in the driver box, and the human player can move anywhere in their human player box. But the human player, First has pointed out that it's reasonable for the human player to leave their station to collect rings. So if a ring was shot out, it goes past the target, and it winds up 5 feet behind Katie. It is reasonable for her to leave her driver box to go get that ring and come right back to the driver box. Yeah. The other thing that was important is for the robot setup, it has to be over one of the starting lines, it has to be touching the back wall, and it has to be touching a wobble goal. Wow, I've completely messed up this game manual, but that's okay. We'll figure that out later.
Do you guys have,
I've been kind of paying attention to the questions. The last one was every part of the robot behind the line for launching, and I answered that.
Perfect. Sometimes it's like I'm working my great job.
We figure if the game elements hold up to the RoboVines, they'll hold up anyway. Robot can't deliberately detach parts, which has been the thing in the past. When a ring comes off the field and it's either in the platform or it hits one of the power shots or wherever it happens to go, the human player is expected to return that to the field as quickly as possible. So you don't want the human player holding the small stack of them and feeding them in at a specific time. They really want, once the human player has the has the ring, they want that human player returning them right away. The human player cannot introduce rings onto the field before driver control period starts. So during autonomous, that stack of rings the human player has to remain with the human player. As soon as driver controlled starts, the human player is expected to start feeding those rings into the field. The only way that the rings can be introduced to the field is through the return rack. It's expected that that is the only way that the human player returns them to the field. But first does note that some exceptions may be made for human players with disabilities or extenuating circumstances. But I believe the general rule is if some exception needs to be made, you need to reach out to the partner. So you need to reach out to Tina and make sure that she's okay with whatever exception, and she may then reach out to first. Storing supplies not allowed. The human player cannot extend inside the playing field, so no hands into the playing field. Mention that if something gets stuck in the tower goal, the human player can reach in to get them, but the robot has to be at least 2 feet or 1 tile away from the goal. The human player can hold as many rings as they want at one time, and they may use a tool to remove rings from the return rack. Possession limit is 3, so the robot can't possess more than 3 rings at a time, with the exception of rings that are on the wobble goal. And as Ryan had mentioned earlier, if a ring bounces into your robot and it gets stuck there, it's considered in possession. Again, rings can't be placed onto the wobble goal except in endgame, and that's all I got. So are there any other questions from people on any of these things? Can the robot use both wobble goals?
Well, that's been a question here too.
That has been a question here. It is not mentioned anywhere that they can't. So it's not like last year where your capstone could only be put on by one team. Everything that is in here kind of insinuates that you can score more. However, the robot can only control or possess one wobble goal. Hold on a second, let me read this. A robot may control or possess a maximum of 1 wobble goal. Inconsequential control of wobble goals above the limit is allowed. Penalty for controlling or possessing more than the allowed is an immediate minor penalty. Each wobble goal above the limit, a major penalty is assessed in excess of the limit that is for each wobble goal in excess of the limit that is scored while a robot controls possessions. So you can only possess 1 wobble goal at a time, but it does read that you can possess, you can score both wobble goals. Assuming you pick up 1 wobble goal, score it, pick up the other wobble goal and score that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Was there another question from you guys?
We were trying to figure out power shot.
It's 15 each.
It's 15 each, no matter.
So end game maximum is 195?
Well, if you don't score any, so you can do 50 with the rings. Oh, each wobble goes 40, so it's 100 and.
What did we decide? Can we use both wobble?
Yeah.
We can use both wobble goals, you just can't control them at the same time. So you would have to pick up a wobble goal, score it, pick up the other wobble goal, and score that.
But remember, you have to shoot them.
Yeah.
Shooting goals. Okay.
So you have to shoot them and then retrieve those rings and then put them back on the wobble goal. What? Okay. So any other questions at this point? We've been through all game manual 2, we've been through all game manual 1. Am I missing anything here, Lisa?
I don't think so. I feel like we've been talking at you guys for a really long time.
I do too. I mean,
Um,
I could talk for another 3 hours.
we all know he can talk.
Nobody wants to listen to that. I want to listen to that.
So I guess if you guys don't have any more questions, and feel free. I mean, we'll take questions all day.
And we'll leave the webinar up for a bit. After the webinar and throughout the season, please reach out to us with any questions. Reach out to us if we can help you in any way. Lisa has a coach's email that goes around all season. And if people want to be added to that, please email our email at nyrobovines@gmail.com. If you want to be added to the coaches list, just email that. Tell Lisa that you want that email added. And then we'll send emails out throughout the season with
And as will Tina.
Right.
You will hear tons of stuff from Tina because this is all just starting to kind of formulate. So we're just trying to figure it all out together. When you start to look at all this stuff, there's going to be more questions. So please reach out to any one of us, reach out to each other, reach out, like the more we can do as a community, the stronger we're all going to be. So please.
And there are quite a few platforms out there for remote meeting too, if people are looking to do that. Zoom has some free software to do some meetings. I know Google has their Hangout software that you can reach out that way. So there are definitely some softwares out there that will allow people to do video chats. We're here, other teams are here, so this is going to be a big year of kind of reaching out to each other and trying to figure out how we can help each other.
And you know what? It makes it almost feel normal, you guys. Like, this is probably one of the most normal days we've had in a long time. So please grab onto that and enjoy it, and let's make this a great year.
So we will leave the webinar up for a little bit longer. If anyone else has any other questions that they want to send in, we'll kind of monitor the chat for a little bit, or the question box for a little bit.
But we are probably going to turn off volume.
Yes, we will mute our microphone while we're doing it.
So that our team
We'll unmute it if someone has a question. But for now, we're going to mute our microphone unless anyone has any other questions. And just take time to digest. If you have any questions while we're still on, feel free to post them. If you have questions after we turn off the webinar, you can email nyrobovines, and I will reach out to Precision Cutups with the information for teams that won the raffle.
And again, thank you to Precision. That was awesome.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
All right, guys. There haven't been any other questions asked, so I'm going to end the meeting. We did record this, so at some point in the near future, we will hopefully share the recording with everybody so you can go back and review it. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll talk to you all soon. Bye.